I want to hear from you guys. When someone says write a constructed response, what do you think of? And it could be literally, I have no clue. Oh, I'm an expert at those. I know you need to add this. So what are we thinking if you hear the words constructed response? And you guys can just shout out and share your thinking.
In about 5 minutes, I'm leaving.
Okay, before you leave, Rydian, what do you think a constructed response is?
I think that, it's not reading and writing, which would have been my first guess, but it's not those.
Well, it could be in those, right?
Yes, I guess, but I guess it's like probably models, equations, and you explain how it's correct, and my model shows the answer and all that.
I like that. So using models and equations to know why you're correct. Does anyone else have an idea?
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, and I'll put this up here for you guys. So I kind of want to talk through this. Math is one of those things that we like to think we just need the right answer, right? So a lot of us are like, I just need to get the right number and I'm done and I move on. There's much more to math, like justifying your answer. Saying this is why my answer is correct. So I found this little sentence frames. This kind of walks us through how to justify our answer in math. We can write just 432 on our paper. And great, maybe you got the right answer, but if someone said, how did you do that? Or why did you do that? You're like, I don't know, I just solved the problem. It's not a good enough explanation, right? So we're gonna work on pushing ourselves a little bit more. So one way we can do this is labeling our work. A lot of times this can be our models, equations, all the steps that you took. This is where I want you guys to use that camera feature and show your notebook. Because your models, equations, steps, all of that a lot of times is drawing, which is really hard to do on a computer. So I think this is where our labels and pictures will come in handy, is when we can insert that image into Google Slides. Because sometimes math work is messy, and it should be, right? I mean, that really should be. If it's not messy, it's too easy. Right. So math should be messy, and that's what your notebook is for. Make sure everything in your notebook, if you're submitting it to me, is labeled so I do know how you went about it. And then, so once you've drawn everything out, you've given me a visual, you've solved the problem. It's not enough just to solve it. Now what we're going to push on in 4th and 5th grade is why. So you're really going to be asking yourself, the big question today is why. And so in your notebook, I would make sure I have today's date, 10/29, right? And then today we're going to call it constructed response. And it's right up here in the corner if you need help spelling. Constructed response. And the word construct, think of the word construction. You're creating something, right? You're creating a response in math. The way that you do this is you justify your answer. You create a solid argument for why you are correct. And the big question I would put right under that in a big circle on your paper is why, with a question mark. The whole time we go through this today, you need to ask yourself, why did I do that? Why did I do this? Why did I choose to solve it that way? My favorite reference is in my class, we play Miss Anderson's a kindergartner, as if I don't know anything in math. As if I knew absolutely nothing about what we're doing and you had to explain it to me. So think about a little kindergartner, a little kid, they always go, why? Why? Why'd you do that? Why? And so kind of think of like a little kid constantly asking you, why? Why? And that'll really help you walk through this justification process. So you need to show all of your work. This could be a picture, this could be an equation, this could be a drawing, a chart, a table, whatever it is that you need for that problem. Then we're going to get into this explain. So today we're going to be doing almost some writing in math, kind of. Explain how you got your answer in writing. So you'll notice on, I'm going to go to our next slide really quick, and I know this little messiness will pop up with me. You're going to be seeing some problems today that have show your work, answer, and explain. So the show your work part is this. Label it, show your work, model, equation. This is what's happening in your notebook. This is the messy part. Your actual answer, you'll type into the answer box here. And then the explain, I said use the first slide to help you explain your thinking. This right here is what you have to explain. So there are actually sentence frames you guys can use today if you need help explaining your thinking. Oops. And feel free to borrow these, that's why I put it here. So once you get your answer, you need to explain it. Well, first I did this, then I did this, finally I did this. You're walking through someone, like kind of walking them through your brain problem.
Bye.
All right, Ridian. And then you need to explain why you do this. Well, I subtracted, I added, I multiplied, I divided, because, and you notice this word because. We know that when we explain our thinking, we need the word because. Well, first I did this, then I did this, finally I did this, because I saw, maybe I saw some clue words, or because I know if I do this, I need to do that. So why did you do it? And then explain how you know it's correct. Well, I know my answer is correct because I know if I see this word, it tells me I multiply, and I know that I have this times that, whatever it is. Or my model shows my answer is correct, so maybe you have something in your notebook that's got some equations or a table, or maybe this is an area model. This shows it's correct because, and then it says show your answer is correct with multiple representations. Use more than one model. So if you have time to get to this, that's wonderful. I would love it. A really good way to do this, you guys, like we've been working on, is use addition to check subtraction, or subtraction to check multiplication. Those are both ways you could do that. So the bulk of this is, I'm going to kind of split this up. The bulk of it is show your work. And then you need to explain, and then maybe you can explain using more than one representation. So what we're trying to work on here, I want to hear from you guys. Why do you think it's important to be able to explain ourselves in math? Why is that important? Just unmute yourself and shout out. Why is it important to explain yourself in math?
It's important. It's important because if you're wrong, like you can check it.
Yeah, it is. It's a great way to check your work. Good answer. Anyone else?
I think good to explain, because if you're just gonna put a number, they're not gonna know how you got that number. Or you're just gonna say like I got like 1, they're not gonna know how you got that answer.
Yes. Imagine you guys walking into a college class right now, and there's crazy math all over the board. The professor looks at you and he says, Aaliyah, the answer is 1,475,329. Do you understand? What do you think you'd probably say? I mean, unless you're ready to do that, you'd probably be like, well, why did you do that? Hey, could you tell me why you got that answer? Or hey, could you explain to me how you did that? And you'd probably have a much better understanding of how this works. Especially for me as a teacher, you guys might have the correct answer or the incorrect answer, but I don't know how you got it wrong, or I don't know how you got it right if I don't know how you did it, right? So this is kind of a way for all of us to understand each other, and it's a really good push. Yes, it's hard to solve a math problem, but it's even harder to actually explain it. So you guys are going to be teachers today. Are you ready? So I'm going to give you a job, and you're all going to work on it separately, and then you're going to become teachers together. Okay? So let me exit out of my slides here. So here is your problem for today. Okay. Here, we're doing number 33. which statement about the two values of the digit 7 is correct? So you're going to think through this. You're going to have which statement is correct. So I'm going to read the choices for you, and you're going to have to kind of think through this. If you want, I'd probably write this number in your notebook real big. And I'd make sure I underline that second 7, right? And you can either follow along on my screen, or you can look at those numbers as I'm reading through the problem. So, which is correct? And please, at this point, don't shout out, because I'm going to have you explain your thinking. So this part, you're going to just be silent and create your own answer, okay? So, A, the value of the underlined 7 is 10 times less than the value of the other 7. So look at your number. Is the value of the underlined 7 10 times less than the value of the other 7? That's choice A. So if I were you, I'd either write an A and circle it if you think it's right, or maybe write an A on your notebook and cross it out. Then, your next one. The value of the underlined 7 is 100 times less than the value of the other 7. If you think that's correct, you could write B down. If not, maybe write B and cross it out. Choice C, the value of the underlined 7 is 10 times more than the value of the other 7. So is this underlined one 10 times more than the one to the left of it? And your last choice is the value of the underlined 7 is 100 times more than the value of the other 7. So now I'm going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes to show your work and explain why you think that choice is correct. I'm going to leave the choices up on my screen so you can look back at these choices. I want you in your notebook to show your work and explain your thinking. What answer do you think is correct and why? And I'm also going to do this with you guys to kind of show you what we think it should look like. So you could put a drawing in your notebook, you could do a table, you could do an equation, a place value chart, whatever it is you want to do to show your thinking, and then have a couple sentences to explain. So I'm going to give you guys about 3 or 4 minutes to work on that, okay? All right, PJ, would you be willing to share your explanation for us?
Sure.
Okay, what did you say?
It's A.
What's your answer?
I said it's A because I did the math, and that, hold on, I have to, and it would be 700 times 10, and that would equal 7,000.
Okay, so 700 times 10 is 7,000. That's a great explanation. And how does that tell you that the underlined 7 is 10 times less than the other 7?
10 times less? It's because it can't be 100.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would just be way too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then it couldn't be C, so because C and D would be division, and you wouldn't want to bring it down.
Right, and so you're saying, PJ was telling me that he knows if you're going right on the place value chart, it's getting smaller. If you're going left on the place value chart, it's getting 10 times bigger, right?
Yes.
Hey, Justin, would you be willing to share your answer with us too?
Yes, so I used place value.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is kind of similar to PJ's, is that 700 times 10 is 7,000. So what I did was I focused on the numbers between that, which there are no numbers between that. So I counted the underlined 7 as a 0 and the not underlined 7 as a 1. So basically, the last number, in this case the one that is underlined, is a 0. But if we were to put that underlined 7 in place of the 9, it would be 100 times less.
I
Because there's
see.
another 0 in between both of those.
So you're using place value here, and I'm going to kind of draw on the screen really quick. So you're telling me that you're looking at this 7 and creating everything after it into zeros, right?
Yep.
And guys, that's what we've talked about with place value, is kind of pretend everything after it's zeros. If I'm trying to find the exact place value of this digit, keep the digit and turn everything after it into zeros, because that shows me it's 7,000. These zeros hold the place value. And then you're saying if I took this one, I'd turn everything after it. If you notice, like Justin's saying, you guys, there's 3 zeros here. That puts it in the thousands place, right? There are 2 zeros here. There's 1 0 less, or there's 10 times less. Justin, I like using that idea of kind of like simplifying it for yourself. That's a really good explanation.
It's really hard to explain it.
No, and that's fine. And I know you said you have it better in your notebook, and that's why I want to give you guys a chance to show your work in your notebooks. I wrote, if you'd like to hear what I wrote, to kind of give you an idea of a proficient example, I said, I know the underlined 7 is 10 times less. So do you see how I'm almost using a race response kind of? I'm repeating myself. I'm explaining my answer. Because its value is 700. But the value of the other 7 is 7,000. Each jump to the right in my place value chart is 10 times less. And I know that each jump in my place value chart to the right is 10 times more. And I had a picture to go with it, drawing some arrows, 10 times greater, 10 times less. And then I said, I know that 700 times 10 equals 7,000. So 7,000 is 10 times greater than 700, or 700 is 10 times less than 7,000. So it's very similar to what you guys wrote. Use your vocabulary in this. Use the words place value. Use the words greater. Use the words less, more, jumps, values. All of those math words are very, very helpful for explaining yourself. And guys, a lot of these math words to answer the question can be found in the question. 2 values. If the word value is in the question, I would use it in your answer. If the word digit is in your question, I'd use it in your answer. And you see how they wrote underlined 7. So they're using the correct words here. 10 times less, they have value. So they're using those math vocabulary words in the answer. So I want to show you really quick. We're going to be doing this today. Let me go back to our math page here. You have 3 questions today, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I only have 3 questions for math. But they're each multi-part questions, okay? So your first slide does show you how to justify your answer. I'm going to leave this checklist up there, so every time you go to an answer, you can always come back to this checklist. And you guys can always use in your answer, these sentence frames are very helpful. So any of these second arrows, you can use those words in your answer. That's what they're there for, okay? And then we have, well, they're all just different types of problems. I picked some problems that are a little bit harder to explain, just to challenge you guys a little bit. Your first one says, on Monday morning, as Sam was leaving to get on the bus for school, his mother gave him $12 and told him, this will buy you lunch for the week. One lunch at Sam's school cost $2.25. Sam is wondering if his mother gave him enough money to eat lunch every day this week. Show how you can help Sam decide if he has enough money. Again, show your work. If you want to insert a picture here, feel free. Put your answer, type in, yes, he has enough money, no, he doesn't. And then your explain, you'll type in down here. I did this first because this, I multiplied that, or I divided this because. Next one, Sam was in a contest at the library to read as many books as he could in 3 months. At the end of the contest, he earned 2 tickets for each book he read. The table below shows the number of books Sam read each month. So January he read 15, February he read 13, March he read 16. Sam was able to buy 1 prize for every 5 tickets he earned. Sam bought as many prizes as he could with his tickets. How many prizes was Sam able to buy? Again, drawing pictures and showing your work is probably very helpful. And then this one, oh my gosh, you guys better crush this one because it's so similar. The table below shows the number of art pieces owned by a museum. How does the value of the 7 and the number of the paintings owned by the museum compare to the value of the 7 and the number of statues owned? That should be like, oh my gosh, light bulbs, I'm ready to do this. Because that is what we're just doing. So again, this is where you're using that vocabulary of place value to explain. Every one of these, your picture, your image really helps. Your explanation, please come back to this first slide. It's so helpful. And then also you can insert your pictures. You can type your answer however you want to explain it. Make sure you have a solid justification. Use your math vocabulary, okay?